when you learn about the law of attraction, you get on a high, right? Because here you are, you think you're helpless in the universe, right? You think you're absolutely helpless and everything's working against you. And then you find out about the law of attraction and you're like, wait, maybe all this bad stuff happens to me because I'm not on the right frequency. So you're like, oh, I know how to change this now. So you get all excited. You have to be positive to attract positive things. You're ignoring everything negative. You're just like now trying to feel as if you already have all the things that you want from the universe. So it changes you a little bit. And now you're like, wow, yeah, you got this high that you're on. And then what happens is that the things that you want, you don't get them. Like, you just don't get them. Especially if you're a big dreamer like me. You know, the big things that I wanted, they weren't showing up. While I was following the advice of some of these gurus about just manifesting instead of just telling me to go put in the work.
Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you?
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want.
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening? What is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Hey guys, what is happening and what is up? Hold out that glass, because you know what time it is. We about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I am your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Well, hey guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. Okay, be sure to check out this banner down below with all of our social medias at their various platforms. That would be much, much appreciated also. Well, guys, got another banger lined up for you. This is a man that I've followed his stuff for a couple years now. I first discovered him when he wrote his book. I don't know if it was his first book, but it's the first one that I have seen. And I've seen him on Skywatch TV with Joe Horn and those guys, and been following him ever since. And I reached out to him and asked if he'd come on the show and enlighten us on some of his work and some of his research. I think you guys are going to thoroughly enjoy this. So I'd like to welcome to the show for the first time, hopefully the first of many, Jon Clash. Jon, thank you, brother.
What's up, Doc? Thank you so much for having me on here. And yes, it is my first book.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'm working on another one, but I actually got halfway through writing one, and then I stopped that and started writing another one. So I have two that will be on the way once I get some more time to continue writing.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's how it works. I wrote my first one this year, and I got 2 or 3 in the back of my brain. But at the same time, I have 2 or 3 documentaries that I've recorded, and I've tried piecing those together. So it's like a creator's problem, man. We always have more ideas than we have hands.
It's so true. And so books and documentaries, they take so long for research, right? Especially if you're writing about something like my book, for example. There's a lot of research that I had to do for that. Something that is, a lot of truth claims are being made. And in order to research that, it takes hours and hours and hours. I mean, for the new one that I'm writing, some of the things that I'm researching, it's like maybe 2 sentences that I'm putting in, and it takes me like 10, 12 hours just to make sure that those 2 sentences are legit, So I know what you mean about having books pop in your head, or ideas, or for videos or documentaries popping in your head. And then all of a sudden you have this like queue in your mind of all these things you want to do, and you can't do any of them.
Yeah, it's like writer's block. I told people for the longest time, I was like, man, I want to do content creation full time. I mean, that's my dream. And I just recently was able to take the plunge, man, and get into this stuff. So I tell people this is actually my first full week of being full time.
Well,
and
that's
I tell
awesome.
people, oh, thanks, man. But I tell people, I'm like, it's weird. I feel like an artist that's staring at 4 blank canvases And it's like you can do anything now, but it's like you are frozen by the options.
You need a little more chaos, you know?
Yeah.
You need a little more chaos.
Yeah. Well, John, man, before we get too deep, for anybody that maybe don't know you or seen any of your stuff, just kind of introduce yourself, give a little background, what you're into, and give us a little info on your book. Just give everybody a feel for who John is if they don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So I always assume most people don't know who I am because I don't think I'm that popular. My name is John. I am originally from Yonkers, New York, and I wrote a book, Debunking the Law of Attraction. I don't know why I just went on this, I felt like I was at an AA meeting, hi, my name is John. I'm from Yonkers,
Hi, John.
Yeah. But yeah, I wrote a book, Debunking the Law of Attraction, because I used to be really into it for a long time. And then when I discovered what I'm sure we'll get into further into this podcast, when I discovered what I discovered about the law of attraction, I tried to tell everybody and nobody listened. So my wife, who is smarter than me, suggested that I write a book. And so I did. And I got connected with Joe Horn over at Skywatch through my friend who actually wrote the foreword to my book, Josh Peck. And he found out that I was writing the book, and I asked him to write the foreword to it. And then he passed it over to those guys over there, and they loved it. So when everything was all finished, they wanted me to come out and be on the show. And I was so excited about that. It was my first time on TV,
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, especially for us that are Christian, I hate to use the term, but it's kind of what we've got. But the Christian fringe or the Christian conspiracy world, Skywatch is like the Super Bowl for us.
Yeah, it is. And they're what's interesting is a lot of topics they touch on are exactly that, fringe. And you're like, it's like rabbit hole stuff, you just keep going and keep going. But there's some of the most grounded people I've ever met in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Super grounded, super down to earth, and very hospitable. I had a blast out there. Me and my wife went out to their ranch, and we had a blast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because the first time I met Joe, I was kind of expecting, him to be, maybe a little snooty or high-hatting, if I use a Southern term. But he was just so cool, down to earth, man. First time meeting him, cut up with me and recorded some stuff with me and give me a cell phone number. And he invited me to come out and hang out at his place and see Skywatch and stuff. So I'm hoping to do that this summer. So thank you, Joe.
Definitely do it. Definitely do it. They're very, as I said, very hospitable, and their ranch is just, and what they do there for, children who are coming out of trafficking is just, they took me on a whole tour of everything, and they were about to have a group come in after we left, and what a blessing they are. What an absolute blessing.
Yeah, amen. And I love how they take all their research and their work and all their proceeds that they get, and they invest it right back into that Whispering Ponies Ranch. So, yeah, they're beautiful people.
Definitely.
Well, John, I guess for maybe those that have been living under a rock and not familiar with the term, the law of attraction. Now, exactly in your definition or experiences, what is that? Because me personally, my first and honestly, I guess only interaction with it was that Netflix show back in the day when it first came out that I think it was called The Secret.
Yeah, The Secret.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people's first introduction to it. It's still, I think that came out for the first time. It was 2007, right? It was a long time ago when that came out. So the initial hype of The Secret is gone, but it's still one of the best-selling law of attraction books, right? So law of attraction is kind of it's changed a little bit, and now that's not the most popular term for it anymore. It's now manifestation, right?
Wow.
That is, if you're searching up, if you search manifestation on TikTok, you have 200 white girls telling you how to manifest stuff, right? But anyway, so it's this idea, and this is 7th grade reading level idea. What you think about, you bring about. That's one of their slogans. So whatever you have in your mind, is sending out a frequency. Let's say, I don't know, I want a Lamborghini. Okay. So if I want a Lamborghini, if I focus on having a Lamborghini and I feel like I genuinely have a Lamborghini, and when I'm driving my car, I close my eyes and I put my hands on the steering wheel and I imagine myself in a Lamborghini, and I feel like it. Don't do that while you're driving, though.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a Lamborghini, then the universe, because I am directly connected with the universe and I am sending out a frequency. Every thought has a frequency that you're sending out to the universe, and it connects with that frequency in the abundance of the universe and begins to attract whatever it is that you're focusing on back to you to manifest into your physical reality. So that's essentially a description of what people believe, right? And on the surface, it's like, I mean, if you don't know anything about physics, or you don't know anything about the beginning of the universe and the Big Bang and how we're a part of the universe, but we are not one with it. You know, we're a part of it because we live in it, right? But if you don't know any of that, it sounds like, wow, that's amazing. And that's how I felt when I first learned about it. I didn't know any of this stuff, and it happened through The Secret, exactly like you said it. That's a lot of people's first introduction. So my friend invited me to go to his house. He's like, yo, has like a term of endearment that we use in Yonkers, not so much anymore, but we did back in the day. It's like, yo, our lives are about to change. I found it. So fast forward, get to my friend's house. He puts on The Secret, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I forgot about it like a couple days later, you know. But that was my introduction to it. And then I got more into it when I got into MLM, network marketing, right? It's like really big in the sales realm, right? So I did very well in network marketing. I'm no longer like building sales teams or anything like that. But when I got started, I built a huge team really fast and started making a lot of money really quickly, right? And for those of you who don't know what network marketing is, just think of companies like Herbalife and Amway, you know, all the things that everyone tells you to stay away from. I was doing really well. And then all of a sudden I hit a plateau. And I didn't know what a plateau was because I never did business before. So this plateau, it just means it flatlines. You know, your business is not growing, it's not dying, it's just flatlined, right? And no matter what I did, I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? So I'm reaching out to people who are more successful than me. And one of them was like, you got to watch The Secret. You got to manifest it. You got to, you know, that's your problem. You're working really hard, but you're not manifesting. You don't have to work that hard if you manifest it. If you just use the law of attraction, then I was like, how could I have forgot about this most amazing tool of the universe, you know? And that's when I just went all in on it. You know, I had my vision boards. I started meditating because meditation is apparently one way that you can help manifest. I was just listening to whatever people were telling me because it was a very self-serving idea. You know, I can manifest these riches that I want. You know, I got this BMW, but I want another BMWs. I got, you know, this going on, but I want that. I'm at this rank in the company, but I want to be at that rank. So instead of just doing what you should do, which is go put in more sales, now you get caught up in this, I'm just going to manifest it thing. So that's when I got really into it.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, it kind of blew my mind because I was always a big Hulk Hogan fan. And, you know, I kind of grew out of the wrestling, you know, once I, you know, got into high school, but still I was a Hulk Hogan fan. So if I ever seen the videos or something like that on YouTube or something like that, it would always stop my scroll, you know, and get me to looking for a little bit. And I seen he went on, I think it was Joe Rogan. He's been on a bunch, but this particular show, he was coming out as a Christian and talking about Christ and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool, you know. And then all of a sudden he starts getting into this woo-woo stuff. But he was still, you know, trying to stay grounded in Christ and the church, and Christianity, but then he was kind of like one foot in each lane, trying to straddle that fence. And he was like, oh yeah, man, once I found out about, manifesting, and focusing, the law of attraction, and he mentioned that's show the secret.
Yep.
That God loves us, man, and he wants us to have our desires, but, you have to, focus in on it and manifest it yourself, because, he even says the Spirit of God, dwells within you. Jesus said, are ye not gods? So we have to do that, and become one with the Father. And I'm like, man, this don't sound right.
I did a reaction video to that, and it was interesting because he was like, it's like magnetism, like attracts like, and Joe Rogan was like, but I don't think magnets work that way. It was something like that. Energy like attracts like, and it's actually the opposite. If you put two north points of a magnet together, they're going to repel. So there's a lot of stuff that they say that it sounds good on the surface, but when you really just pick it apart and you hold it up to some scrutiny, you realize this doesn't make any sense, especially because they make so many claims, right? They claim this, they claim that, they claim this, they claim that, they claim all of this stuff, and then all these claims sound good separately. But then when you put them together, you see, wait, but this one contradicts this one. This one contradicts this one. This one contradicts this one. So one of the main ones that's like a huge contradiction for me is this idea that the universe responds to you when, whatever you're thinking about, right? So they kind of talk out of two sides of their mouth, right? They say that God wants this stuff for you, or the universe wants this stuff for you. The universe wants to give you this, it wants to give you that, wants to. But then in the same breath, they'll say that the universe is an impersonal force, right? So that just responds to whatever it is that you're thinking or doing or acting. It just responds. It doesn't, it says yes to whatever you want, whether that's negative or that's positive. The universe is always saying yes, because it's an impersonal force. So which is it, right? Mm-hmm. Because if it wants something for you, then it's personal. But you're saying that it's an impersonal force that just responds to whatever you're thinking. So which is it? Is it personal or is it impersonal? Because it cannot be both. Right. It can't want something for you if it's impersonal. That's a personal attribute, right? So that's one of the main ones that confused me a little bit. Not really confused me, but made my spidey senses tingle. I'm like, this is not making any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And your subtitle of your book, if I'm getting it correctly, it was how it's the gateway drug to spiritual heresy. Is that correct or close?
Spiritual heroin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the reason that I call it that is because it is a gateway drug. So the law of attraction is watered down in so many ways it's watered down into this like harmless little thing that you can do it no matter what religion you are, no matter where you're at in life, no matter what your background is. It's just science. This is just how the universe works. You can just do that, right? And so you're like, all right, cool. That's kind of how I got into it, because they were talking about quantum physics and all this stuff. And who am I to question quantum physics? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about it. I mean, I do now, but that's only because I researched it while debunking their claims. But less than 1%, I think, I have the exact number in my book, but less than 1% of all PhD graduates graduate in anything quantum physics related, right? So you have all these people talking about, quantum physics proves the law of attraction. And then none of them have any idea how quantum physics works, right? But I think I went down a rabbit trail. Oh, spiritual heroin. This is how it's the gateway drug, because what happens is when you learn about the law of attraction, and this was my experience, this is a lot of my friends' experiences who participated in this, you get on a high, right? Because here you are, you think you're helpless in the universe, right? You think you're absolutely helpless and everything's working against you, Murphy's Law, all this stuff. And then you find out about the law of attraction and you're like, wait, maybe all this bad stuff happens to me because I'm not on the right frequency. So you're like, oh, I know how to change this now. So you get all excited. You start, you got a positive attitude because they tell you have to be positive to attract positive things. So now you got a positive attitude. You're ignoring everything negative, which is a huge problem that we'll talk about later. You're just like now trying to feel as if you already have all the things that you want from the universe. So it changes you a little bit. And now you're like, wow, yeah, you got this high that you're on. And then what happens is that the things that you want, you don't get them, right? Like you just don't get them. Especially if you're a big dreamer like me, the big things that I wanted, they weren't showing up, right? Especially not while I was following the advice of some of these gurus about just manifesting instead of just telling me to go put it to work, right?
Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all-American made is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide.
So what happens is your high wears off, right? And so then you start, the law of attraction is unfalsifiable, right? So if it's not working, it's your fault for not being on the right frequency. So this is what you're told over and over. So if it's not working, it's on you. So when it doesn't work, you start, the logical conclusion to come to is, oh, it's got to be something I'm doing wrong, right? So then you start seeking how to kind of crack the law of attraction and manifestation code. And that leads you to the next spiritual step. For me, it was meditation, right? Like Eastern meditation, focusing on like specific sounds, going like, all these things, because Wayne Dyer said it was the frequency of God, right? So you start getting into that. Then you realize, all right, I got this meditation thing going. I'm feeling better, but things aren't, they're not really moving. I'm feeling a little better, but things aren't going the way that I want. So then what's next? You start seeking out how to get to the next level. It's all like kind of climbing up the ladder of enlightenment, so to speak, right? To get to the point where you're just manifesting on cue. So starts there, then people's paths split. So you end up maybe doing yoga, right, which is rooted in Hinduism, which can open you up to a whole lot of things, especially if you end up down the Kundalini yoga direction, or tantric yoga, which is essentially just a sex cult, And look, let me be fair and not strawman them. Some tantric yoga practitioners do not actually have sex with the people who are participating in it, but for the most part, from my research, a lot of them, it's just an excuse to have sex with as many people as you want.
Stereotypes are there for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So then you have, you're trying yoga, or then now all of a sudden you find out about plant medicine. Ooh, plant medicine is like the most popular thing now. So maybe you do some mushrooms, maybe you do some ayahuasca, and now you have this, for those who don't know what ayahuasca is, it's this like plant that mixed with another plant, some tree bark, in the jungles of like Peru, and you drink it, you puke and you crap all over yourself, and then you have a spiritual experience, right? And so people get addicted to doing that. Now they're ayahuasca junkies, right? And so it just brings you from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. And some people listening might be like, well, so what? That's their spiritual experience. That's their spiritual journey. It goes beyond just spiritual nonsense, right? And I actually think that the spiritual nonsense is the worst part of it, but there is physical consequences to this as well. Not only are you addicted to all of this stuff, right? You're severely, you're like one of these toxic positivity nuts because you can't even entertain a negative thought. Even critical thoughts are viewed as negative, so you can't even do that. But then physically, there has been people who have died by believing this stuff, right? There's a woman in The Secret. I break down her story in my book. Her name's Kathy Goodman. She's the one in The Secret who said that she beat breast cancer by just manifesting it, right? By just focusing on positive or whatever. So she's still in The Secret right now. She's still in the book with all the reprints that they've done. She's still in the book, and she died of breast cancer like 3 years after The Secret came out. So you have this woman on there telling people that you can beat breast cancer by manifesting it. And this woman died of breast cancer. And you didn't think, oh, maybe we should take this out. So I tried to search far and wide. I couldn't find any like statements made by anyone involved in The Secret about this woman who died, which is another red flag, because that means that they're trying to hush hush. You know, we can't have people finding this out. But so, yeah, she died. And then you have this guy, James Arthur Ray, who he did this spiritual warrior retreat, right? And in that spiritual warrior retreat, people paid $10,000 to go to it. Yeah, I don't know how long it was for. Maybe it was a week. I don't know, but I think it was a weekend. And in it, they did a sweat lodge. You know what a sweat lodge is?
Yeah.
All right. So for those
sauna and meditate in a hot room, basically.
So yes, except it's specific, right? Like you have to build it, and you're supposed to get somebody who practices, Native American, indigenous spirituality. You're supposed to get someone who's certified in this stuff to build the sweat lodge, and because it can be dangerous, Well, they didn't do that. They just hired some people to make it, and 3 people died in the sweat lodge. Yeah. So when you get trapped in this spiritual heroin addiction, there are multiple consequences that can happen if you're not aware of what you're getting yourself into. And it comes from, I parallel it to heroin addiction, and that's not to downplay anybody who has struggled with that, but something that is statistically proven and attested to by former addicts is that a lot of them chase their first high, right? And they can never get it because it's never as good as the first time, so to speak, right? And it's the same thing with spiritual heroin. Every single new quote unquote spiritual drug that you do, all you're trying to do is get back to the high. And now it's also proven that many people who are addicted to heroin, and not just heroin, but other drugs, they no longer do it to get high. They do it to avoid the withdrawal symptoms,
Be normal.
The painful withdrawal symptoms. So it's the same thing with spiritual heroin. You can't. Have you ever talked to somebody who's like all the way down the spiritual heroin rabbit hole? It's like they're shot. They're gone. You can't, and they in their minds think that we don't get them because our consciousness has not elevated to their level yet. But they're just high. That's really what it is. They're just high. And I don't mean high in the path towards enlightenment. I mean just shot, like wouldn't pass a job interview, so that then the real danger is this leads you away from Christ, because once you go down the new age, new thought rabbit hole, and you're now in this community of spiritual, not religious people, they love Jesus, but the Jesus that they create in their individual minds. Jesus is somebody different in every single one of those persons' minds, right? And it's just a Jesus that fits their sin, that fits what they want to do, and affirms their debaucherous lifestyle. It's not the Jesus of the Bible. So this pulls you away from it. So yes, there's spiritual dangers. Yes, there's physical dangers. And that's why I think the law of attraction is the gateway to it, because it's this harmless thing. So yeah, just take a puff, you know? I attribute it to the Eve taking the first bite. You know, that first bite, that's all it took was a nibble. Boom, sin enters, right? So it's that first bite into the forbidden fruit that leads towards spiritual death.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a domino effect, man. And one thing, like you said too, when you was talking about that woman that passed away with cancer, I'm sure it's pretty easy for those guys just to, shrug it off. And if people do, get wise to it and ask, they can play that card like you'd said earlier. They're infallible. Oh, well, no, well, she'd beat cancer, but then her mind slipped and she quit focusing and manifesting, and it came back. It wasn't the secret's fault. It was her misuse of the secret.
Yeah, it's unfalsifiable. That's how can I ever, right, to somebody who is trying to gaslight me, how can I ever convince them that, yeah, what you're saying is nonsense. You're telling me that she died of cancer because she stopped manifesting her health. I have no way to prove that wrong. Like no physical, tangible way to prove that wrong. So that's kind of their get out of jail free card. Yep. When Bob Proctor, who was one of the top manifestation, law of attraction gurus, he's like the OG. He was being interviewed by either NBC or ABC, and the interviewer asked him. They said, the children in Darfur are starving. Do you think that they attracted that to themselves? And his response was, well, I believe the country has. And that's the sick mindset that you have to have. And I my hat's off to him for at least staying consistent and not, trying to tiptoe around it. Well, that's not really how he was straight up about it. I think the country has. And that's how you have to be. So that's another one of the problems with it is everything bad that happens to you is your fault. Now that's healthy in some aspects, right? Because the other extreme is everything bad that happens to you isn't your fault, So when you could just be perpetually stupid and causing so many problems for yourself. So it's important to recognize that. But then you have this other side of, let's say a family member gets in a car accident. That's your fault. You manifested it somehow. Your husband is cheating on you. That's your fault. You manifested it somehow. It's not his fault that he's just, a lustful douchebag, right? Like, it's not his fault. No, it's your fault. You manifested that, right? And then there's no accountability to that type of gaslighting, because the community has all bought into the fact that you are the source of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you see it too it's like a double-edged sword. I ain't gonna say I have a lot of, but I have some Christian friends, like on my social media that, without fail, when there's a natural disaster, a tornado, a flood or whatever, they kind of play that card. They're like, oh, well, look at all the sinful stuff that state does. So it was God's judgment. They deserved it. They brought it upon themselves. I'm like, come on, man.
That's going to really win people to Christ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if we're all being honest, man, and had a magnifying glass on ourselves and being honest with ourselves, we are all so screwed up, man. We're only loved and accepted because of that free gift of salvation in Christ's blood on the cross. So I tell people all the time, where Jesus says, remove the log from your own eye before you try to remove a speck from another. I tell people, I was like, I'm just a good old boy from East Tennessee, so I have to dumb stuff down. I said, so the way I understand that is mind your own damn business, people, because you're never going to perfect yourself. So you need to be worried about you.
Right.
When you studying all this stuff, John, now, was this something like as you was going through it, you started seeing some of the bad fruit and you wanted to cross-examine it, or was it you were starting to get into it, so you were curious. So, I mean, I didn't know, like, was there some kind of bad thing that maybe made you question it, or was this just pure curiosity?
So I started believing the law of attraction before I was a Christian. Then I became a Christian, and I brought law of attraction with me into my Christianity. And that, was also because I was into the prosperity gospel and all of this stuff. And just because I had no discipleship, quick story of how I got saved. I was invited to church by people. I went to it, had a great time. It was my first time not going to like a Catholic church. Not my first time, but the first time that it really hit me, not going to a Catholic church. And it was at Hillsong in New York City. And, in its heyday, it was a monster. Like, it was an absolute monster. And I never experienced anything like that. And grateful that God, used that to get me curious about the kingdom. But I was only going because it was like a motivational speech and all that stuff. It was just made you feel good coming out ready to chase your dreams,
Mm-hmm.
Then I got invited to another church. And after that, after the sermon, I was down at the front, giving my life to Christ, taking the little pamphlet and all that stuff. And then I went home. I was like, I don't know. I had an emotional experience. So, but I was curious. So I went and just started studying a whole bunch of different worldviews and whatnot, and ended up at the resurrection, and thought it would be pretty easy to kind of debunk that a guy rose from the dead 2,000 years ago. Seems pretty easy to do, right? On the surface. But then when you really get into the weeds of it, you're like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not as easy to debunk as I had originally thought. So, after studying all that, I was like, man, I think Jesus rose from the dead. And so, long story short, put my faith in Christ, but I had no discipleship at all. I was just a floating Christian, picking what I could find on the internet and being a cog in the wheel of a megachurch, So, then I don't know what it was, probably the Holy Spirit, was just like, I got to look into this law of attraction stuff. I was going to these conferences for sales, and I'm just listening to all these people on stage talk about manifesting and the universe and all this stuff. And it started to not sound right. Like, something was just off. And so I was like, you know what? I gotta start looking into this stuff. And so I started digging, and then I reached out to one of my friends who is in sales, but who is a Bible believing Christian. And, I was like, Doc, he's a doctor. I was like, Doc, how do you navigate this? Like, how do you go to these sales events with them talking about the universe and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And he, in his Minnesotan accent, he's like, good on you, John. Good on you for recognizing that. Most people are oblivious. And I was like, okay, so I'm seeing something that ain't right. And so I started to just dig into, like, what is this? Where did this come from? It can't be biblical, especially because I was coupling it, you know what I mean? Because the prosperity gospel does a really good job at coupling word of faith and law of attraction and all that. It just sounds so similar. Ask believing and ye shall receive and all that stuff. They use these cherry-picked Bible verses. Life and death is the power of life and death is of the tongue. They cherry pick all of these things, and they twist them a little bit too to make them sound even better. But so I also had ran into some real troubles in my life. And in running into those real troubles, I was like, wait, but I thought everything's supposed to be great because I'm a Christian now. I have faith, and faith is going to give me everything that God wants you to be happy, healthy, and wealthy, and all this stuff. This is what I was really thinking. I knew more apologetics than I knew the Bible, So I had this moment of clarity, like, there is something I'm missing in my relationship with God, because I got something twisted. And I think it was in that mess that I also realized that the law of attraction was something I needed to look into more. And then I started digging, and underneath it, I thought it was just science and, all this crap. And underneath it is spirituality. This is a spiritual practice. It's more New Thought on, like as far as the people who are proponents of it. New Thought is, it's almost like a New Age light, right? Like New Age spirituality light. Christianized, like Christianized New Age spirituality in a sense. Melissa Doherty has done some great work on digging into New Thought. There's some differences between New Age and New Thought. New Thought is like Jesus, no crystals. Like that's kind of they try to paint it as Christian, and they don't get into all like the crystals and tarot card readings and all of that stuff. That's more New Age. But anyway, it's all intertwined. I noticed that when people who are teaching the law of attraction, when they're speaking to a Christian, they lean more New Thought in their language. And when they're speaking to just your regular, spiritually curious person, they go right in with New Age stuff. But it's all like pantheism, being one with the universe. New Thought is panentheism, so they believe that the universe is an extension of God, but they still believe that God is in every single thing in the universe. It's weird. You can't really pin them down too much on what it is they actually believe, because every time you push it, they move the goalpost to something else.
Hey guys, it's no secret that every single day your dollar loses its value. If a man invested $1,000 in silver in the 60s, today that same $1,000 would have magically turned into almost $30,000. Silver and gold only continues to increase in value. If you have a 401k or money sitting in savings, that is just a number in a computer system that is one EMP or hack away from being deleted forever. I've recently teamed up with Cornerstone Assets and Metals and started investing in gold and silver myself. And I highly encourage the listeners, if you have money in savings just sitting there, invest it in hard, tangible assets. The same thing with your 401ks. Take a 20 to 30% cut of that 401k, that number in a computer system, and invest into hard, tangible assets that is proven to only increase in value. Be sure to check out the link in the description or the number on the screen, and be sure to tell them that Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens sent you. Torch is high, guys.
But anyway, so I started digging into it, and I found from my research, the first person to ever say the words law of attraction, like put those words together, was a guy named Andrew Jackson Davis, or Andrew Davis Jackson. I always flip his middle and last name. And it was in his book, The Great Harmonia. Now, he was just like your regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill spiritualist, into weird stuff, but nothing like the other founders of essentially New Age spirituality, which is like the Helena Blavatskys and the Alice Baileys. And then Helena Blavatsky was I say this in my book, they need to make a Netflix series out of her life, or out of her alleged life, because it's nuts. This lady was crazy. Yeah. So I started, I found some quotes of her about how she views Satan, and it's in a very positive light. And she hated Christianity. She's quoted as saying it should be wiped off the face of the planet. So you have her. She's considered the mother of New Age spirituality, right? That's the foundation. Then you have Aleister Crowley, who was kicked out of, I think, Sicily because somebody died during a blood ritual or something like that. Right, he wasn't allowed to come back, either Sicily or Italy, which is kind of the same thing depending on who you're talking to. But so these are the people who are essentially the founders of these modern spiritual, not religious movements. And I'm like, Aleister Crowley has a book titled Magic, and in one of the chapters, he's discussing when the best time to kill somebody is in a human sacrifice ritual, and it's while you're climaxing, like, dude is sick, bro.
Yeah.
And this is the light and love that underlies this worldview, So when I saw that, I was like, oh no, Christians, we got this messed up. We should not be participating in this. And then I tried to tell people, and they thought I was crazy. They would not listen to me, or they would, but then be like, yeah, okay, cool, all right, yeah. And I wasn't.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, bless his heart. And then even when I wrote the book, they bought the book to support me, but they never even read it. People, they want to live in whatever they want to live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
which I didn't know. I did some looking into Alice Bailey a while back on some episodes and stuff that I was doing some research for, and she was like going out toward India and meeting these, ascended masters. Mm-hmm. And she was saying that they were flesh and blood, like enlightened people.
Yeah.
And that they were giving her all this information and stuff like that. So, I mean, once again, it lines up with that whole, Kundalini chakra, type stuff anyway.
Yeah. It's, so I got into researching more of Alice Bailey. I'm writing a book, Debunking Christ Consciousness. And there's a few people who were really pushing the Christ consciousness thing. She's one of them. Helena Blavatsky, yes and no, but definitely Alice Bailey and a few others in that, like, I guess that era, right? And it's really, what's interesting is they claim that these things are ancient, but they're not. They're not. They go back to like the 19th century. These now maybe these ideas that you're one with the universe, they go back further because that's like what Hinduism believes, and Buddhism. But this whole Christ consciousness thing, and Christ taught the law of attraction and all that stuff, that's all new. It's these people, the Helena Blavatskys, the Alice Baileys, it's those people who made those ideas popular. And now we drink the Blavatsky Kool-Aid like it's nothing, thinking that we're ingesting some ancient wisdom.
Yeah. And so much of it rooted in like Freemasonry type stuff too.
Yeah, definitely.
When I read Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, and talks about when they get to like the 32nd or 33rd degree, that the grand architect is revealed to them as Lucifer, the light bearer. Yep. And so much of her stuff lines up with all that kind of stuff. And then when she passes on, the torch basically goes on to Alice Bailey. I mean, her and her husband kind of make their own little branch and move out to New York and start the Lucifer Trust Company.
Mm-hmm. Helena Blavatsky had a magazine titled Lucifer that I think did like 2,800 articles or something like that. Oh, I'm going to pull one of a couple of Blavatsky's quotes because as you were mentioning how they hold Lucifer in this light, let me just get to her. Yes. So these are some Helena Blavatsky quotes. Lucifer is divine and terrestrial light, the Holy Ghost and Satan at one and the same time. So that unification, right? Imagine that, the blasphemy of unifying Satan and the Holy Ghost, right? Yeah. Satan, the enemy of God, is in reality the highest divine spirit. It is Satan who is the God of our planet and the only God. And this is without any elusive metaphor to its wickedness and depravity, for he is one with the Logos, the first son, the eldest of gods. Like calling him one with the Logos, meaning one with Jesus, right? But then in the same breath, she says Christianity should be wiped off the face of the planet. So, yeah, when I read some of her quotes on Satan and Lucifer, I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been doing this.
Yeah, and what kind of circular reasoning, you want to bash the Bible, but you use it to propagate your own twisted theology.
Right.
Well, with all the stuff that you looked into, I know you'd mentioned some of the stuff, and you might have mentioned it already, but like far as like shock factor, like when you were searching this stuff up, what did you find that just smacked you in the face out of nowhere and just kind of blew your mind? I know a lot of authors that I speak with, even myself included, doing your research, there's usually one or two things that you find you're just like, oh my God, what? I didn't know if maybe you had a moment like that, or maybe several.
So besides it, being rooted in Luciferianism, that was one thing. But then when I saw the business models, and when I saw all the lawsuits that happened with the proponents of the law of attraction, and remember, the highest frequency is love and authenticity, right? Like the the writer of The Secret, Rhonda Byrne, sued and has been sued multiple times by people that she worked with. She's screwed people out of money, and this is like the one, like she's the most enlightened when it comes to this. There was another guy who was, there was this part of the video that we always used to joke about. It's called, I receive checks in the mail, always getting checks in the mail. Well, the guy who's, telling you that if you just write yourself a blank check and now all of a sudden you're going to receive checks in the mail, he was actually defrauding investment students, and he lost his ability to practice finance in Australia, right? So all of this stuff that I started looking into, and I'm like, man, these people are horrible. And then I had a conversation with Doreen Virtue, and Doreen Virtue used to be one of the top New Age authors in that era, right? And she met all of these people and toured with all of these people. She told me, she was like, John, we had no business giving people life advice. We were messed up, sex addictions, drug addictions, not her specifically, but just speaking about the movement, the community, and like sex addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, scamming people out of money, this, that, like they had no business telling people how to be living their lives. And when I dug into this, I had no idea how right she was, so that was shocking. Especially the woman who died from cancer, that was shocking to me as well. The people who died in the sweat lodge, that was shocking to me as well. Then I have a whole chapter in my book titled False Claims, right? In The Secret and in the Law of Attraction, they tell you that all of these people believed and taught the law of attraction. They pull quotes, like even from Abraham Lincoln. They say Abraham Lincoln said this, or Shakespeare said that, and all of this. And when you hear it, you just take it at face value. Like, how could somebody blatantly just lie to you and say, yeah, Shakespeare said the world is a play, and everybody, and we're just like, yeah, Shakespeare did say that. No, that was in his play, Hamilton. Oh my gosh, not Hamilton. The name of the play is completely escaping me, right?
Yeah, so you're on your own, man. Classic. I'm not that good at.
All right. But it's a skit. Hamlet. Oh my gosh. It's in there. So it's not. It's Shakespeare wrote it, but it's not like a quote that he said. No, it was a character in Hamlet that was saying that, right? So you hear all these things like, oh yeah, Shakespeare said this, Abraham Lincoln said that, this person said this person said that. So I was like, let me look into it and see what these people said. Half of these people didn't even say what they're saying that they said that they said. And I'm like, how are we just putting blatant lies on ink, and nobody's checking this? Like nobody's like, oh no, Shakespeare didn't say that. Oh no, Abraham Lincoln, he didn't say that. That quote actually comes from a Disney movie, So so I was really shocked at just how blatantly they lied to your face. And maybe they don't know. Like maybe because there's a lot of parroting that happens.
They know.
Yeah.
But they also know that most of us are either too lazy or too dumb to, cross-reference or check their work. Most people just believe, I heard it on YouTube.
No, they bank on your They bank on your stupidity. They bank on your laziness. That's what they bank on, for you to not look into this beyond what they're telling you.
Yeah. That's the true markers of a brilliant con artist.
You ever saw that movie, Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they are. Except I really like I ended up liking that character. They made him so likable. But, that's how they are. They're the Catch Me If You Can. And the issue is that the wellness industry and this, I feel like new age spirituality and stuff that falls under the wellness category.
Yeah.
It's not regulated at all. So you can just say and make whatever claims that you want to make. And it's not like the CDC or anything is going to be like, wait. Not that we can even trust the CDC anymore. But anyway, that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Oh, man. Well, John, man, I know you said you had an hour today, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I tell everybody, man, time, that's life's most valuable asset. So you're taking it away from your family, man. I appreciate you donating that time to us and the listeners. But, man, just let us know where we can find, your content. If you got podcasts or YouTube channels, or where can we find your book? If they want to see more of Jon Clash, where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, definitely. So right now, my Instagram and Facebook are the most active. So Jon Clash on Facebook, JonClash. And my Instagram is JClash. My YouTube, I had all these plans to start a new podcast and everything. And then I got shipped offshore. So I do plan on doing a bunch more long form content, but it's real difficult when I'm doing, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And then my wife's going to give birth in February. So there will be stuff coming on YouTube. Just don't expect it, in the next 2 months. Okay.
Oh, man.
And I'm writing the book as well. Yeah. So my current book is called Law of Attraction, a gateway drug to spiritual heroin. Bada bing, bada boom. And you can get that on Amazon. I have an audio book. I read it. So if you've enjoyed listening to my voice for the past hour, you can listen to it for another 5 by downloading my audio book. And then I'm working on another book, Debunking Christ Consciousness.
That's awesome, man. Yep, I just released my audio book too. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, you get to hear this deep Southern redneck drawl, even in your free time if you can't or don't want to read. So yeah, you're without an excuse now. So I definitely appreciate you took the time to do it yourself.
It was bad. I did it in my mother-in-law's basement, and I just hooked up my microphone and then edited everything. It was brutal. Oh my gosh, It was so brutal. But came out pretty good. So. Oh
yeah, because that's something not a lot of people do, man. So definitely it puts you standing out in that crowd for sure. I went through, and as I was proofreading mine, I just had my microphone up to me, and I was reading it. And when I'd catch a mistake, I'd stop and fix it and back up. So I had to go through and snip and cut all that stuff. But I got a good friend that does the editing for me. So he'd done all the compression and all that kind of stuff for me.
Whenever I messed up, I clapped. I learned that from when I did the Cultish podcast. It's pre-recorded. And whenever something messed up, he went, clap, like a big clap. So that way you saw the spike in the audio, and his editor knew that this was a mess up. I was like, man, that is genius. So that's what I did for my for my audio book. Anyway, enough behind the scenes.
Oh, no, man, that's awesome. But, Johnny, I appreciate your time, brother. And, guys, hey, if you enjoyed that, as you can see, this guy's a well-researched, well-spoken guy, just a pleasant dude. Be sure to check out his stuff, and be sure to follow him on Instagram. That's how I connect with John. He's always putting out good reels, and he actually does some really good reaction videos. So he calls some of these people out on their nonsense, and he's real catty. So if you enjoy my playful, smart aleck self, you're definitely going to enjoy John, because we are birds of the same, how does it say? Birds of a feather. Birds of the same feather. But guys, man, be sure to check out his stuff, man. Hey, just remember, the difference between the known and the unknown is the journey. So, good journey, guys.